In my office, I keep two objects that seem to contradict each other. One is a heavy, leather-bound volume of Western moral philosophy, centuries of arguments built on the idea that the universe is rational, orderly, and fundamentally fair. That if you act well, live honestly, and do the right thing, life should respond in kind. The other is a small cracked ceramic bowl from Japan. It was repaired using kintsugi, the practice of filling broken cracks with gold, not to hide the damage, but to honor it. These two objects remind me daily why good people suffer and why the universe isn't your enemy. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Rose Chen. I teach metaphysics and belief systems, which means I try to answer some uncomfortable questions about why we're here, experiencing this life. And when students sit across from me, sometimes exhausted, sometimes in tears, and ask, I've been a good person, so why is this happening to me? They are standing right between those two objects. What they're experiencing isn't just disappointment or bad luck. It's something deeper. It's what I call a metaphysical crash. The moment when an invisible belief about how life should work collides with how life actually behaves. And that collision is where this conversation really begins. The Western fairness contract. In Western societies, we grow up inside what I'll call a transactional worldview. If you study hard, you get the grade. If you work hard, you get the promotion. If you're a good person, you get a good life. Over time, morality quietly turns into a contract. We don't say it out loud, but we live as if the universe is a vending machine. Insert virtue, receive reward. So when illness, betrayal, or loss arrives, the emotional shock isn't just pain, it's confusion. We feel cheated. We look for someone to complain to. What did I do wrong? As if life malfunctioned. But this is where the philosophical problem appears. Nature doesn't operate on linear justice. Rain doesn't check your moral history before it floods your home. Pain doesn't arrive because you failed a character test. The suffering feels unjust only because kindness was treated as a down payment on protection. The Eastern lens of neutrality. If we shift lenses, particularly toward Taoist and Buddhist traditions, the entire framing changes. In these systems, the universe isn't a judge. It isn't a manager. It isn't even particularly interested in you. This isn't cruelty, it's neutrality. The Tao is often described as a river. The river does not intend harm or protection. It simply flows, indifferent to who swims well and who does not. In Eastern metaphysics, events aren't morally charged. They're contextual. A storm is disastrous for a sailor and life-saving for dry land. Meaning is assigned after the fact, not embedded into the event itself. So when something painful happens, the question isn't, why is this happening to me? It's what is changing. This perspective doesn't remove pain, but it removes the belief that pain is persecution. The metaphysical winter. Across cultures and across history, there's a repeating pattern. Humans grow most when the fairness narrative collapses. If life always rewarded goodness cleanly and predictably, we would remain shallow. We wouldn't develop empathy, resilience, or depth. We would never be forced to re-examine who we are beyond our roles. Many Eastern traditions describe hardship as a winter phase. In winter, a tree looks dead. Leaves fall. Growth appears to stop, but underground, the roots expand. The tree grows deeper because surface survival is no longer enough. From this perspective, suffering isn't evidence that life wants you to fail. It's evidence that the current version of you is insufficient for what comes next. This doesn't make pain noble. It makes pain functional, living without the fairness illusion. So how do we live once the fairness contract dissolves? First, we release the Western obsession with why me? That question assumes the universe is singling you out. A more useful question is what now? Because it puts the next move back in your hands. Second, we adopt Eastern acceptance, not resignation, but cooperation with reality. Suffering is often described as pain plus resistance. When resistance drops, pain remains, but it stops becoming an identity-shattering event. And finally, we learn from kintsugi. Your value doesn't come from being unbroken. It comes from being broken and choosing to integrate the fracture rather than hide it. Does being bad not matter? This is where a dangerous misunderstanding often appears. If the universe isn't judging us, some people think, so it doesn't matter if I cheat or harm others. That conclusion does not come from karmic or Taoist systems. It comes from misreading them. In these traditions, if you do something bad, something that causes suffering or fragmentation, you aren't breaking a rule. You're creating turbulence. If the universe is a flow, your actions are stones thrown into the stream. A harmful action is a jagged, heavy stone. It creates chaotic ripples that disturb the water. And here's the part people miss. You are the one who has to swim in that water. Karma was never about moral revenge. It was about cause and consequence rippling through time. If you harm others, you don't escape consequence, you rearrange it. It shows up as fractured relationships, constant vigilance, inner unrest, and a life that requires control instead of trust. What's the key takeaway from here? Many people ask whether the universe wants them to fail. From a metaphysical standpoint, a more accurate interpretation might be this. The universe is indifferent to comfort, but deeply responsive to growth. It doesn't care whether you're happy in the way a child is happy with a toy. It cares whether you're awake. Sometimes the only way to wake someone up from the illusion of fairness is to remove the toy. This is not an excuse to cause harm or injustice. Causing suffering is wrong because it creates turbulence that destabilizes lives and communities, and imbalance always demands correction. And the cracks you carry, if you choose to fill them with awareness rather than bitterness, with self-development rather than self-destruction, will become the most defining part of who you are.